Coming up on this edition of Cogeco News, we interview a couple of experts about COVID-19 and treatments and impact. A local angle to the horrible tragedy in Nova Scotia. And yes, it is Volunteer Week. We're saluting. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to this Monday edition of Cogeco News. I'm Greg Esterbrooks. The number now is 16 in the Nipissing Parry Sound Health Unit catchment area. 2 more positives on the weekend. A woman in her 50s and another woman younger than 20 have tested positive, again reported by the health unit. The unit says the older woman contracted COVID-19 from a close contact, while the younger woman contracted the virus in the community. Both are in self-isolation. Meanwhile, we spoke to an expert in regards to respiratory treatment. He is based in Niagara Falls and one of the best in the province. Dr. Neil Marahaj joins us via Skype to talk about the treatment plans he has for his patients, the pressure on all frontline workers, including doctors, and battling the government for a better funding model for clinics. Dr. Marahaj says that if doctors aren't paid urgently for services done since March, hundreds of thousands of patients could be left without a doctor because they can't afford to pay staff or pay bills to keep their doctor offices running. And he joins us again via Skype.
So the government on Friday announced to the media that they would provide what they've termed income stabilization in the form of a loan that would be paid back at some point in November thereafter. I'm not aware of the actual official offer to the Ontario Medical Association. They leaked this to the media. The devil, as you know, Greg, is always in the details. And so the problem with a loan, though, is many clinics, patient volumes are down significantly. So what the loan essentially does is it puts the cost of the pandemic management on the backs of doctors. And remember, the payments to doctors go to pay their clinics, their overheads, their staff, their equipment. So we will have to pay that back at some point in time. And it's not entirely clear that the volume of patient care will actually be able to do that. So you can't ask a doctor to, see 40 more patients in a day just to make up the payment of the loan. That's just physically not possible, and care will compromise. So if my understanding of that offer is correct, then I don't think that's acceptable. What's needed is a grant.
There's going to be incredible burnout for doctors and frontline people. There's going to be the issue of the getting paid scenario, which you still are not totally satisfied with, to be blunt. What about those scenarios? Do you have to go back to the government and ask for even more help because you need it?
Yeah, I think to address that question, I think I need to look at the offer. The OMA needs to examine the offer carefully. I think part of dealing with burnout, I mean, there's many aspects to this. From the financial side, yes, it might require going back to the government. But the reality is, Greg, many doctors across the province are putting it all on the line. And we're human too. We have families too. So when I go to hospital, for example, and I treat my patients, I bring that stress home with me, and I bring the likelihood of transmission to my family. So in our household, we've adopted strategies to try and separate myself from my family, but that comes along with stress as well, and a lot of anxiety. So, the healthcare aspects, not just for patients, but healthcare providers, my nursing colleagues deal with this too. It's staggering. And so for now, we're all in this together. We're leaning on one another as best we can, knowing that sometimes one of us will need help more than the other, but this is also going to be a long-term strategy for healthcare providers required.
Providers should get an increase in pay because of the risks that they take.
So hazard pay, as some have called it. I mean,
yes.
I think this is my own opinion. I think that is a fair ask. Many doctors, over hundreds of doctors, have died across the world because of this, because they've been fighting with inadequate PPE, which could have been mitigated against had we followed our SARS pandemic planning. So I think that's a very reasonable ask. Um, Again, I suspect the government has a very different perspective on this, but along with my other physician colleagues, are risking their lives when we're seeing and intubating patients with COVID. So I don't think that's unreasonable to ask, and I think that's important.
We'll have more from Dr. Maharaj on Tuesday. We also had the opportunity to speak via Skype with a Kitchener-Waterloo-based doctor who is heading up a special team trying to develop a coronavirus vaccine. Dr. Roderick Slavchev joins us via Skype.
Development, and a lot of my background is in genetics and microbiology, so it's a little bit of an area that's familiar to me. And you know what's out there, and we have a good sense of what the available scenarios are, and we just lend to what are the internal capabilities of what we believe that we can do best, and how we can design something that draws on a lot of the literature and what's been done, and figures out how can we novelly do something that we believe is better, more durable, and more universal across the board as well.
You're not the only group trying to develop a vaccine, as you're well aware. Are you in any contact with any other scientists in other cities or other countries who are embarking on this?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of contact, and a lot of this happens just by virtue of literature and a lot of sort of, pieces that go out, learning from others. Anytime, this is what's really cool, and what I'm really thrilled about seeing in Canada. It's not a matter of, a race of who gets to it first. It's a matter of getting this done and finding a solution as fast as possible, and seeing all the other investigators across the country rising up and taking action against this. That's the way it should be, and it's a cool thing to see. It's the way it's a great thing to see. So yes, this is a collaborative effort nationally, is the way I see it.
There has been some progress. You're getting some good early results. How are you getting those results, the positive ones?
Well, this is all based on a platform that we had derived. I have two different companies that have spun out of my lab based on some of our previous research. We're DNA specialists. So Metaphage Bioceuticals is one of those companies that has a new approach and a new vector that can be a very safe and effective way of being able to deliver DNA. So we drew on what those capabilities were, as well as a new delivery vector that is highly novel using a bacteriophage through another company, Theraphage. And putting those together, it just made a significant platform that we believe can just draw on all the necessary immunological pieces to do something not only different, but more effective than what has been done previously.
Dr. Slavchev, there's also been a lot of, concern, worry about timeframes, development timeframes. Some people say it takes years to develop a vaccine. Some say it could take as little as a year. Can you put a clock on it, or is that too difficult?
It is difficult. I mean, everything's really based on the necessary testing. To alleviate some of those fears, I think the best way to look at it is that a lot of the regulatory hurdles that are in place, although expedited at present to be able to get something into the hands of people who need it, they're necessary. And having these safety measures in place is a very important part to make sure that no matter what is developed and by whom, that it is appropriately tested in all the various and right areas to ensure that it is a safe vaccine for any further usage. So that does add time, of course, but it is important.
At least 19 people are dead, including one RCMP officer, following a shooting rampage on Sunday in rural Nova Scotia. North Bay City Councillor Mike Anthony was in the same graduating class in Nova Scotia as the suspected gunman who was killed by police. Anthony's wife, Tanya, is also from that part of the country. This is the worst case of gun-related violence in Canadian history, and the North Bay Councillor joins us via Skype to react.
This was the scariest part. Well, that floored me later to realize, oh my goodness, that's somebody from my high school class. I know him. I remember him. See, Tanya's dad and stepmom live in Brookfield. Brookfield is one of the names you would have heard yesterday. And the best way I can describe it to somebody here would be, imagine if something terrible was happening like that and it was a person going from Corbeil to Callander to Powassan back into North Bay. Like, it's that type of a close-knit. You would know people. People would know each other.
What was the time frame of you hearing about this horrible series of murders and actually reaching her parents?
Well, as soon as we heard about it, we tried to do our first calls. It took us 4 or 5 calls. We tried the house. They have a little tiny shanty of a cottage on the Bay of Fundy. There's a phone there. We tried cell numbers. And then finally we got Kay, that is Tanya's stepmom, and found out they were okay and their two sons, Tanya's brothers, are okay. And that just, we were on pins and needles up until then, because like I said, imagine if you were living in another city and you saw that something was happening in Callander and Corbeil and you know those people, you'd want to find out if your friends were okay. In this case, it's our family. The next scary thing that I'm really worried about for Tanya is she'll know as names come out, she's going to know these people. Her family's going to have worked with them and things like that, right? Because it's that small knit. We're talking communities of like 800 and that kind of thing. To give you an idea how closely knit, when we were watching it on TV unfolding and we saw 3 or 4 people speaking from that area, she knew them.
Mike updated later on in the day saying that his wife is a friend of one of the deceased from yesterday's shooting in Nova Scotia. Meantime, law enforcement from across the country in mourning over the gruesome violence experienced on the weekend in the eastern province of Nova Scotia. Among the dead, Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year veteran of the RCMP. We get some local reaction now.
RCMP Constable Heidi Stevenson was among those killed in the shooting rampage. Constable Stevenson, a mother of 2 and a 23-year veteran of the police force.
It was horrible to learn of the events that happened in Nova Scotia this past weekend and learn of the death of Constable Heidi Stevenson from the RCMP, and we offer our condolences, our sympathies to Heidi and her family, but also to our brothers and sisters in the RCMP nationally across Canada, and especially to the residents of Nova Scotia too, who have suffered great loss.
With an attack on any member of law enforcement across Canada, it's an attack on law enforcement in general. Is this a deep sense of loss, whether or not your members have any personal interaction with the person that lost their life?
In law enforcement, I think it's a shared heartache that we all have right now today, knowing that a sister police officer has been killed in Canada by gunfire, and we all mourn the loss and we all feel it.
The loss of the RCMP constable is, I felt it at home last night. I was upset. I think every police officer and every emergency service person in Canada is upset by that. I mean, it doesn't sound like there's any rhyme or reason, but we have to let that investigation take its role and see what happens. But again, I feel sorry for and all the other families out in the East Coast. I mean, that's just terrible at this time.
Police locally have ruled out foul play after a body was discovered on Friday afternoon behind the Caldwell Elam Community Center on Carruthers Street. Breakdown has arrived here on Cogeco News. Much more when we come back as we salute volunteers. Welcome back, everybody. This week is National Volunteer Week, and here at your TV, Cogeco News, our volunteers are the life's blood of our station all week long. We will feature interviews with our valued volunteers. Today we check in with Courtney Kenny, who has volunteered with us since the fall of 2013.
Courtney Kenny joins us now, a valued Your TV volunteer. Courtney, where did you get an interest in volunteering at Your TV?
Way back, I'd say about 7 years ago now, I was taking radio broadcasting at Canadore, and my teacher was Jeff Turrell, and he had mentioned earlier in the year that, hey, if you want to go out and get some firsthand experience, I know it's not radio, but go and help out Your TV if you can. They got well, I mean, what interested me, of course, was a lot of the battalion programming, and I like hockey, so I said, yeah, you know what, why not? I'll go and give that a shot, and haven't looked back since.
Now, you are the host of the OHL Tonight live on Your TV, one of our major programs here at the channel. What has that experience been like for you?
It's been amazing. It's been fun. I've obviously worked on some hockey broadcasts before, but coming back to where it all started for me with Your TV in North Bay and helping out and giving back and talking to the players and working with the amazing staff that I get to work with, it's just really gratifying. And to sum it up in one word, it's fun.
Let's talk about those relationships, because when I volunteered way back when, it was just the relationships you build with people is something you really value, and you have good relationships with people here. Absolutely.
I mean, talking to you right now, you're one of the guys I look up to, Clark, and a bunch of other guys as well. I can name them off. There's Jake, there's Joey, there's Chris, there's of course Greg Estabrook.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about
out.
Greg? He's in there.
Can't ever let Greg out. If I'm missing anybody, I apologize, but everyone's just so helpful. They all understand right away that, hey, you're getting new to this. You're figuring out how to work a camera or where you should stand or what questions you should ask. Everyone just kind of very understanding, very helpful, and it helps to forge great lasting relationships.
When you're back dedicating your service to Your TV and back with us, what are you looking forward to the most in the upcoming season or seasons?
I really enjoy working on my interview styles. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the young talent that the battalion have coming up as well. And just the experience, the whole family environment that it is working and volunteering with Your TV. I look forward to getting back to that as soon as possible.
Well, Courtney, we thank you for all your dedication, and we look forward to seeing you back really soon.
Thanks, Clark, and I look forward to being back very soon.
Okay, congratulations to Courtney, and we'll have volunteer profiles all week long. Is your son or daughter age 9 or under celebrating a birthday between now and May 10th? If so, flashing lights on police cruisers and fire trucks could be part of the celebration. More from Clark Heipel.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Well, the men and women of the North Bay Police Service, North Bay Fire Department, and Callander Fire Department, not necessarily known for their singing ability. However, they are offering to help celebrate birthdays of area children over the next few weeks. The ownership of the local McDonald's has partnered with local fire and police to brighten up the birthdays of area youth during this time of quarantine.
This is a tough time for adults, and it's a tougher time for kids because they really don't understand. And I remember when I was growing up, birthdays were a big deal. Kids would come over and would have lots of fun and do all sorts of playing. And the birthdays right now for these kids, it's like, okay, maybe we can watch TV, right? There's a big difference. This program was initiated by the police department, and they approached us at McDonald's to see if we would partner, and we're thrilled. We're so excited to help with this. We think it's a great idea. And like they said, it's not every day you get to see a cruiser in your driveway.
I approached the president of the North Bay Professional Firefighters Association, Mike Gillies, and came up with a plan about where we could go out in cruisers and fire trucks and kind of deliver goodwill within the community to the kids that, unfortunately, they're stuck in the house not seeing friends. So.
And thankfully, President Northrup promised that he would refrain from singing. All joking aside, a great joint effort between police and fire.
Our membership is certainly on board and more than happy to help out and lend a hand to this cause where Kids are kind of stuck at home and bored and can't see their friends, so we think it's a tremendous idea.
You know how disappointing it is for an 8 or 9-year-old to have a birthday plan and can't have a birthday right now. So, you know, having a police cruiser and a fire truck come by with a real quick, you know, happy birthday and a little gift will, you know, hopefully bring some, you know, real cheer to the kids' lives in our community.
The Callander Fire Department has over 24 volunteer firefighters. They're all on board to help celebrate.
Given the social distancing that has to go on, it's anything to get a little bit of contact or something, add a little variety, I think is a good thing. You know, if it can, you know, make a day a little more pleasant for somebody who's missing something, because we can bring our fire trucks, so we can make a lot of noise.
Typically, fire and police presence at a location means there's an emergency, so this is a good chance for positive outreach.
Going through the neighborhoods with our vehicles, the two fire services and the police service together, and delivering the McDonald's birthday gifts that they're providing to the children in our community. So it'll be a positive interaction, we hope. But again, I want to stress the importance of just having the opportunity to have interaction during the restricted movements that we have right now, and we hope that the communities appreciate it.
If you have a son or daughter that is up to and including the age of 10 and celebrating a birthday from now until May 12th, you can contact Sergeant Jody DeHaas at 497-5555, extension 277, or you can email at jdehaas@northbaypolice.on.ca. Reporting for Cogeco News, I'm Clark Heipel.
The weather forecast coming at you right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
Snow on Sunday, sun on Monday, and perhaps some more snow on this Monday night. Welcome back to Cogeco News. I'm Clark Heipel here alongside Algonquin Avenue. I am here for your 5-day weather forecast brought to you by Canadore College. Also here to remind you that April is Daffodil Month. Please give generously to the fight against cancer at cancer.ca. Well, the price of gas in North Bay and surrounding area in the 70s price per liter, and this price could go down even further as we are nearing a record low for the past 30 years for a price of a barrel of oil in US dollars nearing $10. Quite low as the supply and demand is much more in supply rather than demand as the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed down economies and the use of gas burning equipment. And speaking of falling, more snow to fall tonight, 2 centimeters worth, and we could have 2 more centimeters on Tuesday morning. Let's take a look at that 5-day forecast brought to you by Canadore College. Heading overnight on this Monday night, the wind's going to pick up and the snow will fall down. 2 to 4 centimeters of snow expected. Wind gusts to 50 kilometers per hour, a low of -1 on Monday night. On Tuesday the 21st, 2 more centimeters of snow in the morning. Wind gusts to 50 as well in the morning hours, high 0, and a low of -12 on Tuesday night. Cloudy skies throughout most of the day. On Wednesday, cool, mix of sun and cloud, chance of flurries, high +3, and overnight Wednesday night, low -11 with clear skies. The skies remain clear for the rest of the work week. Thursday, high 5 above, low 7 below with sun. And Friday, warmer still, high 7, low 2 below with sun. Turning the page back to the almanac, Sunday was snow day. We had a high of 8 and a low of 7 below. The normals are 12 above and the freezing mark for the normal high and low. Well, there you have it. There is your 5-day weather picture. Do stay tuned. Greg Esterbrooks will have your sportscast and a salute to frontline workers. All that and more right after this.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, COVID-19 evidently has claimed another sports league for 2020. The North Bay Bulldogs, who field teams from the early teens to adult, have decided to cancel their 2020 campaign and look forward to a return in 2021. Mark Mathall made the announcement after a board meeting late last week. We here at Cogeco News and your TV want to take time to salute those who are going above and beyond the call during this health crisis. We want to salute the frontline workers every Monday. We have a couple of pictures. That is one. Another one, well, we don't have it, but we could have it maybe tomorrow. That is it for news, weather, and sports for this Monday. See you again with more Cogeco News on Tuesday.
Bye.